Decline is often misunderstood as something that happens in isolated parts of the body, as if the eyes age separately from the brain, or memory fades independently of circulation and immunity. Biology does not work that way. The body ages as a network, and when one signal weakens, others quietly follow. Vision changes are rarely just optical, they are vascular and neurological. Memory loss is rarely just cognitive, it is metabolic and inflammatory. What appears as separate problems is usually a single pattern: reduced flow of blood, oxygen, and information through systems that once communicated effortlessly. At the center of this pattern is circulation, not simply as movement of blood, but as the delivery system for repair. The smallest blood vessels in the body serve the retina and the brain, and they are extremely sensitive to stress. When movement is rushed or aggressive, stress hormones constrict these vessels, prioritizing survival over maintenance. Over time, this reduces nourishment to the very tissues responsible for seeing clearly and thinking sharply. Gentle, rhythmic movement reverses this by increasing blood flow without triggering alarm. The heart pumps more efficiently, vessels soften, and oxygen reaches areas that have been quietly deprived. This type of movement also restores what could be called informational circulation. Every slow shift of weight, every controlled change in posture, sends sensory feedback to the brain. Nerves report pressure, balance, orientation, and timing. The brain integrates this data and responds by refining control. This loop is essential for neurological health. When it weakens, coordination fades, reaction time slows, and mental clarity dims. The exercise at the heart of this approach feeds the brain a steady stream of high-quality information, allowing it to stay engaged without being overwhelmed. Vision benefits directly from this process. The eyes are not passive cameras, they are extensions of the brain. They rely on precise coordination between eye muscles, blood flow, and neural processing. Slow, attentive movement encourages the eyes to track smoothly and focus accurately. Increased circulation supports the retina, while improved neural timing enhances visual interpretation. Many changes attributed to aging vision are actually changes in how the brain processes visual input, and this processing improves when movement and attention are aligned. Memory follows a similar logic. Memory formation and recall depend on stable blood flow and calm neural conditions. Stress fragments memory by diverting resources toward threat detection. Gentle movement restores a sense of internal safety. As breathing slows and posture stabilizes, the brain shifts from reactive to integrative mode. This state favors learning, recall, and mental clarity. Information becomes easier to access not because it was lost and found, but because the pathways to reach it are no longer obstructed by noise and tension. Inflammation, too, responds to this shift. Chronic inflammation often persists because the body never receives a signal that it is safe to turn it off. Immune cells remain vigilant, tissues stay irritated, and healing stalls. Slow, coordinated movement paired with calm breathing sends a powerful counter-signal. The nervous system transitions toward regulation, inflammatory chemicals decrease, and repair processes resume. This does not happen instantly, but gradually, as the body relearns balance between defense and restoration. What makes this approach remarkable is its efficiency. It does not rely on intensity or duration, but on precision and consistency. The body does not need to be exhausted to adapt, it needs to be informed. When movement delivers clear, non-threatening information, biology responds intelligently. Systems that seem to be declining independently begin to recover together, not through force, but through restored communication across the body's networks. Aging is often framed as a problem of damage, but from a neurological perspective it is more accurately a problem of desynchronization. The brain does not lose power all at once, it loses timing. Signals arrive slightly late, sensory input becomes less precise, and coordination between systems begins to drift. Vision, memory, and attention all depend on this timing. When movement becomes automatic and inattentive, the brain receives fewer meaningful signals, and neural pathways that depend on regular engagement begin to weaken. The exercise at the center of this approach works not by demanding effort, but by restoring synchronization across the nervous system. The nervous system thrives on novelty combined with predictability. When movement is slow and deliberate, the brain has time to register each sensory input. Balance shifts, changes in head position, and gentle changes in speed activate the vestibular system in the inner ear, which plays a critical role in spatial awareness and visual stability. This system communicates directly with eye muscles and brain regions involved in focus and orientation. As these pathways are engaged repeatedly, the brain improves its ability to stabilize vision, especially during movement, reducing blur and disorientation that are often mistaken for purely ocular problems. Attention is another key element in this process. Modern movement often happens while the mind is elsewhere, but the brain requires attention to strengthen connections. When an exercise demands awareness of posture, breath, and direction, it brings attention back into the body. This focused state enhances neural plasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize and adapt. Memory formation relies on this plasticity. Information processed during attentive states is encoded more efficiently and retrieved more reliably. By training attention through movement, memory systems receive indirect but powerful stimulation. Coordination between the two hemispheres of the brain also improves through integrated movement. Exercises that involve gentle crossing of the midline or alternating sides encourage communication across the corpus callosum, the bridge between hemispheres. This communication supports problem solving, recall, and emotional regulation. As coordination improves, mental tasks that once felt effortful regain fluidity. The brain becomes less compartmentalized and more cooperative, which is essential for maintaining cognitive function with age. Stress has a profound effect on neural timing. Chronic stress accelerates neural firing in some areas while suppressing it in others, creating imbalance. The exercise in question counteracts this by pairing movement with controlled breathing, which slows neural oscillations and brings different brain regions into harmony. In this synchronized state, inflammation-related signals diminish, and the brain reallocates resources from vigilance to maintenance. This shift benefits both cognition and perception, as mental noise decreases and clarity improves. Visual processing, often overlooked in cognitive health, is deeply tied to neural coordination. The eyes send massive amounts of data to the brain, which must be filtered and interpreted rapidly. When neural timing degrades, visual information becomes harder to process, leading to fatigue and reduced clarity. By engaging eye movement, head position, and balance together, the exercise retrains the brain to integrate visual input smoothly. Over time, this integration can improve visual comfort and reduce strain, supporting clearer perception. What makes this approach especially effective is that it does not isolate brain training from physical movement. The brain evolved to learn through the body. When movement, attention, and breath are aligned, learning becomes embodied rather than abstract. This embodiment strengthens neural circuits in a way that mental exercises alone cannot achieve. The brain does not distinguish between physical and cognitive practice, it responds to patterns of engagement. As synchronization improves, the nervous system becomes more resilient. Reaction time sharpens, memory becomes more accessible, and sensory information is processed with greater ease. These changes are not dramatic or sudden, but cumulative. Each session reinforces timing, clarity, and coordination. Over time, the brain rediscovers rhythm, and with it, the capacity to see clearly, remember reliably, and respond calmly to the world as a unified system rather than a collection of aging parts. Inflammation is often described as the enemy of health, but in biological terms it is not a mistake. It is a protective response designed to heal injury and fight threat. The problem begins when this response loses its off switch. As the body ages, low-grade inflammation can become the background noise of physiology, quietly interfering with vision, memory, and tissue repair. This happens not because the immune system is broken, but because it is constantly being told that the environment is unsafe. One of the strongest signals of danger to the body is chaotic or excessive stress without resolution. Movement has a powerful influence on this signal. High-intensity or rushed exercise, especially when recovery is limited, can keep stress hormones elevated. These hormones instruct immune cells to remain alert and aggressive. Over time, blood vessels stiffen, tissues become irritated, and healing slows. The exercise at the center of this approach works differently. It introduces movement without urgency, effort without alarm. This subtle difference changes how the immune system interprets the body's state. When movement is slow, coordinated, and paired with calm breathing, the autonomic nervous system shifts toward parasympathetic dominance. This is the branch responsible for repair, digestion, and immune regulation. In this state, inflammatory chemicals such as cytokines decrease, and immune cells begin to support healing rather than defense. Blood vessels relax, improving circulation to tissues that are sensitive to inflammation, including the brain and eyes. The body is not being forced into recovery, it is being invited. Inflammation also affects the brain directly. Chronic inflammatory signals interfere with neurotransmitters involved in memory and mood. They disrupt communication between neurons and reduce the brain's ability to adapt. This is why inflammation is increasingly linked to cognitive decline. Gentle, rhythmic movement lowers these inflammatory signals by reducing stress hormones and improving metabolic efficiency. As glucose regulation improves and oxidative stress decreases, the brain operates in a cleaner internal environment, supporting sharper thinking and better recall. The eyes are particularly vulnerable to inflammatory stress. The retina relies on delicate blood vessels and precise neural signaling. Inflammation can impair both, leading to gradual changes in visual clarity. By improving circulation and calming immune activity, slow coordinated movement supports retinal health indirectly. Increased blood flow delivers nutrients and oxygen, while reduced inflammation preserves neural sensitivity. Vision improves not because the eyes are worked harder, but because the environment they depend on becomes more supportive. Another overlooked aspect of inflammation is its relationship with movement. Variability. Repetitive patterns can create localized stress and irritation, especially in connective tissue. This localized inflammation can spread systemically through signaling molecules. The exercise described here avoids repetition by incorporating gentle shifts in posture, balance, and direction. This variability distributes mechanical load evenly and prevents the buildup of localized irritation. Tissues receive stimulation without overload, reducing the need for inflammatory response. Breathing plays a central role in this process. Long, slow exhales activate neural pathways that directly suppress inflammation. This is not psychological relaxation, it is physiological regulation. As breathing slows, carbon dioxide tolerance improves, blood pH stabilizes, and inflammatory cascades are interrupted. When breathing is synchronized with movement, these effects are amplified. The body experiences coherence rather than conflict. Over time, this approach retrains the immune system's expectations. Instead of preparing for constant threat, it learns that periods of calm and movement coexist. This recalibration allows inflammation to rise when needed and fall when healing is complete. The result is not the absence of inflammation, but its proper timing and resolution. What makes this single exercise so effective is that it addresses inflammation at its root rather than its symptoms. It does not suppress immune function or distract from discomfort. It changes the internal context in which inflammation arises. As the body experiences repeated signals of safety, coordination, and rhythm, inflammatory patterns soften. Tissues recover more efficiently, cognitive clarity improves, and systems that once seemed independently affected begin to stabilize together through the quiet intelligence of regulated movement and calm internal chemistry. Memory is often treated as a fragile archive, something that slowly erodes with time, but biologically it is far more dynamic. Memory depends on access, not storage, and access depends on how efficiently different regions of the brain communicate. With age, the challenge is rarely that memories disappear, it is that the pathways used to retrieve them become less coordinated. This is why recall can feel inconsistent, clear one moment and distant the next. The exercise behind this approach works by restoring cooperation across the brain rather than trying to stimulate memory directly. One of the most important elements in this process is movement that engages both sides of the body in a coordinated way. The brain is divided into hemispheres, each specializing in different tasks, yet memory relies on their collaboration. When movement becomes limited, repetitive, or one-sided, this collaboration weakens. Gentle movements that cross the midline of the body encourage signals to pass back and forth across the brain's connecting fibers. Over time, this strengthens integration, making recall smoother and thought patterns more flexible. Balance and posture also play a significant role in memory access. When the body is unstable or tense, the brain prioritizes maintaining safety over higher cognitive functions. This is an evolutionary response. By incorporating slow, controlled movement that improves balance, the brain receives reassurance that the body is secure. In this state, mental resources become available for memory, attention, and learning. Calm physical stability creates the conditions in which cognitive clarity can emerge. Attention is another critical factor. Memory formation and retrieval both depend on focused awareness. When movement is deliberate and requires gentle concentration, attention naturally sharpens. This focused state enhances the brain's ability to encode and retrieve information. Unlike mental drills that isolate cognition from the body, this approach embeds attention in physical experience. The brain learns while the body moves, reinforcing neural pathways through embodied practice. Breathing further amplifies these effects. Slow, steady breathing stabilizes brain rhythms and reduces background neural noise. This clarity allows memory-related signals to stand out rather than being drowned out by stress-driven activity. When breathing is synchronized with movement, the brain enters a state that favors integration and recall. This is why people often experience moments of clarity or insight during calm physical activity rather than during intense mental effort. There is also a metabolic dimension to memory that is often overlooked. Brain cells require a stable supply of energy and oxygen. Gentle movement improves circulation without triggering stress responses that disrupt glucose regulation. As metabolic efficiency improves, neurons function more reliably. This reliability supports consistent memory access. The brain becomes less prone to lapses caused by energy fluctuations or inflammatory interference. Emotion and memory are tightly linked, and movement influences both. Chronic tension and stress impair memory by keeping emotional centers of the brain overactive. The exercise described here reduces this overactivity by promoting calm and rhythmic engagement. As emotional tone stabilizes, memory retrieval improves. Information is no longer filtered through anxiety or urgency, making recall clearer and more accurate. What makes this approach particularly effective is that it does not demand effortful remembering. Instead, it creates the conditions in which memory functions naturally. The brain is not forced to perform, it is supported. Over time, repeated exposure to coordinated movement, balanced posture, and calm breathing retrains the brain to operate as an integrated whole. Memory, in this context, becomes a reflection of overall neural health rather than a separate faculty to be defended. As communication improves across brain regions, recall becomes less strained and more reliable. The individual experiences memory not as something slipping away, but as something that responds to care, rhythm, and cooperation between mind and body, quietly reaffirming the brain's ability to adapt and remain accessible through intentional, embodied movement. The final insight behind this exercise is not mechanical or medical, but temporal. The body ages not simply because years pass, but because its internal rhythms lose coherence. Cells divide, repair, and communicate according to timing cues that are shaped by light, movement, breath, and rest. When life becomes rushed or fragmented, these cues weaken. The exercise works because it reintroduces rhythm at a pace the body can recognize and trust. It does not attempt to reverse time, but to restore order within it. Biology responds profoundly to predictability. When movement is slow and repeated with attention, the nervous system begins to anticipate rather than react. This anticipation reduces unnecessary stress responses and allows energy to be allocated toward maintenance and repair. The heart settles into a more efficient rhythm, digestion improves, and immune signaling becomes more precise. These changes accumulate quietly, often unnoticed at first, yet they influence every system involved in aging, from inflammation to cognition. Time also matters in how the brain learns. Rapid, forceful stimulation can overwhelm aging neural circuits, leading to fatigue rather than adaptation. Slow, intentional practice allows neural signals to propagate fully and integrate across regions. This integration strengthens pathways that support vision, memory, and emotional regulation. The brain does not feel pressured to keep up, it feels invited to participate. Learning in this context is not about speed, but about clarity and repetition. There is a philosophical dimension to this respect for time. Modern health culture often frames improvement as conquest, something achieved by pushing harder or faster. The oldest medical traditions understood health as alignment. When actions match the body's natural tempo, resistance diminishes. The exercise reflects this wisdom by valuing presence over performance. Each movement becomes a moment of dialogue rather than command, allowing subtle adjustments that preserve function over the long term. Inflammation, too, is influenced by time. Acute inflammation resolves quickly when the body senses that the threat has passed. Chronic inflammation persists when signals of urgency never stop. Slow, rhythmic movement paired with calm breathing signals resolution. It tells the immune system that repair can begin and vigilance can soften. This shift does not eliminate inflammation entirely, nor should it, but it restores its appropriate rise and fall. Healing becomes cyclical rather than stalled. Vision and memory benefit from this temporal coherence. The eyes require precise timing between muscles, nerves, and blood flow. The brain requires synchronized firing to encode and retrieve information. When timing improves, clarity follows. This is why the effects of the exercise are often described as subtle yet profound. The changes are not dramatic spikes in ability, but steady improvements in reliability and ease. Respecting time also means accepting variability. Some days the body feels open and responsive, other days less so. The exercise accommodates this without judgment. It can be adjusted in intensity and duration, maintaining continuity without strain. This flexibility encourages consistency, which is more influential than intensity for long-term adaptation. The body thrives on what is repeated, not what is extreme. As this practice becomes part of daily life, it reshapes how aging is experienced. Instead of resisting change, the individual learns to work within it. Movement becomes a form of listening, breath a form of guidance. The body responds by maintaining clarity where it can, adapting where it must, and conserving vitality through intelligent pacing. The quiet power of this approach lies in its humility. It does not promise immortality or perfection. It offers coherence. When systems move together in time, health expresses itself naturally. Vision stabilizes, memory remains accessible, inflammation resolves more efficiently, and the body continues to invest in itself, responding to rhythm, attention, and patience as it has always been designed to do. If you found these insights helpful and want to continue learning practical, science-backed strategies to stay healthy, strong, and vibrant as you age, don't forget to like this video, share it with friends and family who could benefit, and subscribe to our channel for daily senior wellness tips, nutrition guidance, and simple lifestyle hacks designed to enhance longevity and quality of life. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a new video that can help you live healthier, happier, and more empowered every day.